Welcome to Extreme Makeover, PowerPoint Edition. We're going to go ahead and critique some slides and look at what's good about them and what we might change, looking very specifically. And when I ask students to do this, they often have very similar comments about the slides. Oftentimes they might say some positive things like it tells a story, or it's easy to explain, it's simple, it's visual, it's got good colors, the text's a good size. And you can see that they might often have some common negative comments about things. Well, we put all of those together along with some advice from Michael Alley, who's written a whole book about how to make better PowerPoint presentations. And we have a checklist for your slides that's shown here. Every slide has one idea, the graphics are large and clear, text blocks have no more than 2 lines, the background's a nice solid color, and there's generous white space, and so on and so forth. So we're going to try this out on a couple of different slides, just like we've done in class. So here's the first one. We start off with a really interesting question up at the top, but if you look at all these words down below and you actually read them all, you see that the question's not actually answered. There's some really important details, but the message gets lost here. What this author is really trying to convey is that silica content governs the violence of eruptions. So is there a way that we can show that better? Well, here's my attempt. I start off with a nice sentence headline so you know what my main message is right from the start. The amount of silica and magma determines the explosiveness of eruptions. And then I can show that visually at this bottom block here. Silica content, when it's high, you get a boom, and when it's low, you get a fizzle. Much more memorable. Now you might be saying, well, you're leaving out a lot of the key details. Now that we've set up this visual dichotomy between the left side boom and the right side fizzle, we can really build on that. We can take that same left and right and add more details, as many as we need to really communicate all the level of detail that our audience needs. This next one I found on the web, and it builds a little bit by little bit. It took so long to do the animations that I had to speed it up in the video for you. But once we have the full picture here, we see that there are these 3 pictures, and for some strange reason, the one on top is smaller than the other 2, even though these are all important stages of alpine glaciation. It makes you think that maybe this stage is less important. If that's the case, then why are we showing it? There's also all these extra words here. Too much going on, too many little labels, so how can we improve this one? Well, I think the key message that this person was trying to get across is that there are 3 stages in alpine glaciation. And the reason why that first one was small and this most recent one here is bigger is because we're trying to show a time progression. And that was one way to do it. But I accentuated that time progression by adding this arrow and changing the size of all 3 of them. I covered up some of the labels. Obviously, I didn't do a perfect job with this. And these pictures are still a little bit poor quality, but imagine they're perfectly good quality, and I've now labeled them much bigger: unglaciated, glaciation, and post-glaciation. But again, there's more detail that maybe we want our audience to have. So now that we've got this idea, we can take this part and we can add another detail. Different landforms are sculpted during different stages of glaciation. We can start pointing to a few of them that we want people to learn in this stage or in this stage. Breaking things up into these different slides not only allows our audience to focus on a manageable amount of information at once, but it also gives them the clue as to why they're looking at that information in the first place with the sentence headline at the top. Here's another slide I found in an introductory geology lecture on the web, and it says conditions and locations which favor chemical weathering. So that's the topic of this slide. But you got a clue in here that there's too much information because it's got conditions and location. There's this criteria here: rainfall, surface area, time and stability, temperature, plant decay. And then we've got all these pictures of different locations. This is another classic problem where we have text and pictures, but the pictures don't match the text. It's not clear exactly how they're related. And that's because there's actually 2 ideas on here: the conditions and the locations. So let's split them up and see how we can do that. Well, one way we can do that is by saying the rainfall, the surface area, the time, the temperature, and the plants. Well, those all add up to chemical weathering. So maybe we can express that as an equation. That's kind of a cute thing to do, but I'm just not happy with how that looked. So maybe visually it looks better to show them as arrows, saying that each one of those are factors that contributes to chemical weathering. And now a viewer can look at this and they can very quickly see what's going on. There's chemical weathering, and what factors lead to it. It's all those things. What about the locations? I think what the person that made this presentation was trying to say is that chemical weathering can happen in all sorts of different environments. Everything from dry deserts to moist and foggy climates. Now, the amount and the mechanism of chemical weathering might differ from place to place, but the point is that it happens all over the planet. And by putting these three pictures side by side, it encourages us to compare them and start thinking about what is it that contributes to chemical weathering in each of these places. But the fact that they're all side by side also means that they're all co-equal. These are equal types of things where we expect chemical weathering to happen. The keys for an extreme makeover for your slides are to focus on one idea per slide, state that main message up at the top, and then communicate that main message down below visually.